Hi everyone, I'm Bill Harrell and welcome to our program. For the next 30 minutes, we'll be talking to Likewise. He's the author of the book Ambitious, One Man's Journey to Conquer the Darkness of Dyslexia. The book is available through Amazon, Walmart, Barnes & Nobles, and Books A Million. Likewise is a man of many talents, and he has a willingness to help others. For more on Likewise, please visit his website, www.likewiseoriginal.com. Well, Likewise, thanks so much for coming out to your second show on Blab TV. It's great to have you again.
Well, thank you, and I am happy to be back.
I tell you what, the name of the book mentions dyslexia, so I want to talk for a moment about dyslexia. For those that might not know, what is it?
Dyslexia is when you see letters and words backwards and numbers, and occasionally you see left and right. You get it confused at times.
So when you look at dyslexia, it's a type of thing that, let's say for instance, the word cat, C-A-T. How do you see cat?
The way I see cat is, Bill, the C trade places with the A, and the A trade places with the T, and it's almost like playing hopscotch.
Mm-hmm. So they're jumping back and forth.
Yes.
Now that makes it difficult to read, right?
Oh, yes, it does.
Well, let's talk what is it like to have dyslexia?
It's very frustrating, but my key to it is learn a strategy and don't give up.
Well, when preparing for the show, I actually went to a website of famous people with dyslexia. I want to read out a few names and see what you think about it.
Okay.
Steven Spielberg, famous Hollywood director.
Okay.
Whoopi Goldberg, star of The View. Albert Einstein, man that created, the concept of relativity. Thomas Edison, the inventor. The man that almost invented everything. Walt Disney, a man that took images and just made them tremendous. Leonardo da Vinci, famous artist. Jennifer Aniston, and she was on Friends, so she was a television star. All right, Tom Cruise, Top Gun, all those movies.
Oh yes.
Magic Johnson.
Wow.
NBA Hall of Famer.
Very interesting.
And then finally, Robin Williams, a man of a lot of energy, comedian, did a lot of movies and things like that. It said that about 15% of the population has dyslexia. When you look at a list like that, are there any common themes? A lot of those people have done a lot of creative things, physical things, and things like that. With dyslexia, is that an important place to go sometimes, is to go into those things where you can, use your physicality, all those types. Tell us about that. What's it like living with it?
It's hard, but yet you go to where you're strong at. Mm-hmm. Use the gifts you have to reach your expectations in life. And my top gun thing I would have to say is don't give up. Just don't give up on yourself.
Likewise, in your book you talk about enrolling in college, and here are some pictures of you in the classroom. People can look at those, but what was it like? Because you talked about the cat, the letters jumping around and that type of thing. What was it like being in college?
It was hard. At times your hand gets sweaty. At times your heart rate speeds up, but gradually it all calms down, and you become your situation becomes part of you, and all of a sudden you're working, you're flowing with it.
There's a lot of pressure, when you get into a situation like that. I would think, because there are other people in the room that don't have dyslexia, and you're fighting that problem. Talk to me a little about something in the book. It's called spiking anxiety. What is it, and how did it come about?
Spiking anxiety. I'm gonna start off by saying this. I was in 7th grade.
Okay.
And every time the teacher would ask, it's time for me to read, just before she would ask me, I would break out in a sweat. My palms would get sweaty. I would get real nervous. My heart rate would speed up. And then after she called my name and I tried to read, right after I was finished, it stopped. Every time someone would come at me with a piece of paper to sign or anything dealing with paperwork, I always kind of spazzed out, heart rate speeded up, broke out in a sweat.
Now, is it because you were afraid that other people would judge you a certain way, that they didn't feel like you were trying hard enough, or maybe that you were, what caused you to feel that way?
I was afraid if people found me out, you're right, they would judge me, they would pick on me because I was different and I didn't know any better at that time.
Now, when you say you didn't know any better, in other words, you had a certain period where you probably didn't know you were diagnosed with dyslexia, right?
Exactly.
Tell us
You were
about
exactly
that.
right.
What was that like?
I wasn't diagnosed, so it's kind of frustrating to be having problems with books and writing and things of that nature because you're thinking, hey, what's wrong with me? And it's not that you're not trying, you are trying.
Yeah, and that seems to be a common theme when I'm reading and listening to TED Talks about dyslexia, is people said, people thought I was lazy, that I wasn't trying hard enough, that I wasn't doing the work, that I wasn't even trying. And, from what I've talked to you about, you actually prepare ahead of time. I mean, you really plan how you're going to do the work, right?
Oh, yes, I do.
Well, tell us about, when I think about spiking anxiety, it's kind of common to panic attacks, that you hear about people having.
It is.
So when you would be in a situation like being in school, you would have almost these panic attack-like things, and heart rate goes up, start sweating, But you said they got over right after.
Exactly.
You didn't have to read it anymore.
Exactly. This is where I really labeled it and gave it a name. Mm-hmm. One night I went to enroll in school, in college. Mm-hmm. And when I got there, you have to take a placement test, they call it. And when I was taking the placement test, first of all, everyone else was getting finished before me. Mm-hmm. Anxiety hit me. I got finished, it went away. Okay, when everyone was asking me, how did you do? Spiking anxiety came about again. It rised up. So as I left the college one night, as I got closer to my car and I opened the door and got in, I told myself, this has to stop happening to me. So I called it spiking anxiety because it comes so fast and then it goes away. The only reason it goes away is because your situation is gone away. It's just like a young lady that goes to a party and no one knows that she's divorced. She thinks no one knows she is divorced. Well, at the time of someone asking her that, I didn't know you were divorced. Spiking anxiety can hit you just that quick. And you want to remove yourself from the situation. Soon as that young lady walks away, or whatever the case may be, she goes back to being normal. And that's the same thing with spiking anxiety. And with me, I learned to cope with spiking anxiety. I called it a name that helped me be able to conquer it.
Yeah, and I want to get to that because I think that's a very important part of this discussion is how do you learn to deal with it to improve your life? Because I think, when we talk about dyslexia and we talk about panic attacks and things like that, this book is really broader than just people with dyslexia. A lot of people have anxiety. So how did you learn to deal with it to make your life better?
I actually prepped myself. Any situation that I get ready to go in, from now on, from that day forward, I told myself, hey, you can do this. It's going to be scary, but you can do it. You prep yourself by telling yourself, I can do this. I'm stronger than that. Look at the outcome. You're going to be something better. And then you manages it. And when you go into the situation, everything starts coming to you. You start relaxing. You start saying, hey, it's almost like prepping yourself for schoolwork, just like I said, you know?
Well, to learn more about this concept of spiking anxiety, it's in the book, Ambitious.
Right.
I want to make sure viewers know how they can find the book. We mentioned earlier all the different places, but what's the best ways to find the book?
You can find this book on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Books A Million, and Walmart.com.
Likewise, I said in the beginning that you have a variety of talents, and in the first show we really did emphasize a lot of the things you did, showed videos and things like that. But one of the things I didn't know is that you entertained and sang in nursing homes to nursing home residents. I think that's so great. But how did that all come about?
I just started working in a nursing home, and I would go in some of them's room and sit on their bed and sing to them, and I just kept on going with it. And the next thing you know, I was called to do a little thing in nursing homes, and I just have fun. But I want you to know something. That has been one of my greatest things I've ever done in my life. Entertaining in nursing homes and with the patients and putting smiles on their face. It's well worth it. I tell you, it's well worth it.
Well, let's go to a video of you singing. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. I can't wait. Let's take a look.
I'm just an old man. I'm just an old man. I'm just an old man. Walking on my journey. And I come across a family, and they're walking with a child.
Likewise, that was great. I'd never heard you sing before. You know, that sounded like an original song. Being dyslexic, how difficult is it to write your own lyrics? Do you have a problem with that?
Yes, I do. But you know what? At the end of the day, I love music, so it's well worth it. It's well worth the frustration of what you go through if you love music. The most important thing there is, hey, always say, don't give up.
Where did the singing come from? When did you first start singing?
It's about 5 or 6 years ago. I started singing, and I used to hum a little lyric every once in a while when I was at home.
And there's always singing in the shower.
Yeah, it's always singing in the shower. And so I did, and then I got away from it, and then I ended up coming back to it.
Well, we're talking about some of your talents, and we want to continue. I know you're a model, and you're passionate about dancing. So I want to take a look at a couple of pictures of you modeling, but also a video of you dancing, because I think you have a lot of talent in that area.
Well,
Let's take a look.
Thank you.
Likewise, that was great, man. You're such. Maybe one day you're going to be on Dancing with the Stars.
Well, I don't know. I don't know. But I'll give it a shot.
Because you are a star in your own right.
There you go.
You know, it's really interesting because dancing is a physical thing. You know, you move your body and things like that. You always enjoyed dancing, right?
Yes, I do.
It was the old thing about going out in the cornfield with a little Walkman and dancing by yourself and that type of thing.
Yes.
You like to dance with others now, right?
Oh, yes, sir.
Yeah,
Yes,
and,
I do.
And that's something that, as far as modeling, you know, it's another thing that is one of your talents, and you pick that up, and so got a lot of things going on, you know, with these talents, and I guess, you know, in the book, you're really fighting the battle with dyslexia, but, you know, creating all of these new abilities that you never thought you had. How can people find out, you know, from the book? You know, where can people get a copy of it so they can learn the story?
You can get the book on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Walmart.com. And I guarantee you will learn something about yourself you didn't even know. This book is way more than just an autobiography.
You know, I've read the book. I had a chance to read it. It's about 140 pages. I really like the way you write with similes. You know, you always use some really catchy phrases like cat on a hot tin roof and things like that to describe how you would feel. You know, that emotion you were talking about, spiking anxiety,
Exactly.
like a cat on a hot tin roof and things like that. But those similes are very, very well done that you've done. And it's a good read. It's about 140 pages, and it really tells your story. Now, one of the stories it tells is about your culinary arts. You know, all the stuff that you've learned. I want to shed some light on that skill. We have a video of you cooking and some of your creations. Why don't we take a look at some of those creations and come back and talk about it?
Okay, that sounds great.
All right. Likewise, that food looks delicious, man. It looks so good. How did you develop this passion for cooking?
Well, I first of all saw my mom cooking, and I thought it would be easy, which I were wrong. But hey, I enjoy cooking. I worked for the United States Forest Service cooking. It's been great in my life, and I enjoy it. Decorating food is just great, and I love to eat. Love to eat.
Well, that's certainly a benefit of being a cook, because it's right in front of you. You know, one of the things about the challenge with recipes and, you know, the things that are written down with being dyslexic, does that present a problem?
Yes, it does. But to cut a small story short is to prep yourself. Mm-hmm. If I had to cook a meal for some guests, I would prep it well ahead of time. If I had to take a menu and write it down, like if I was cooking in a kitchen somewhere, like I did actually, I would take down schedules, write down menus, and I would just walk, read them, and keep reading them. And then before it just start coming to you, and then when you go before your peers, you look professional. You look like you got it all together. And they just don't know what you put into getting it all together. But hey, at the end of the day, it's worth it.
It sounds like in your life you do a lot of preparation for situations, right? And that's real important, I think. You know, people sometimes don't prepare. They just jump into stuff and maybe get in trouble. Likewise, one of the things that's in the book is about the experience that you were bullied growing up and that type of thing. What would you do to advise a child who's being bullied today?
First thing I would say is tell someone of authority. Do not feel like you're a tattletale, because what could come from this is you might not just be saving yourself, you're saving someone else from being bullied by this same person.
Now, when you were bullied, was that because of the problems you were having with dyslexia? Did people, make fun of you because maybe they thought that you were slow, or you just didn't get stuff, or maybe you weren't trying and that type of thing? Was there always an underlying purpose behind you being bullied?
Actually, that was the start of it. Actually, that was the start of people bullying me. And sometimes bullies are insecure about themselves, and they would target someone that's weaker than themselves.
So what do you tell someone maybe that does have some developmental disabilities and things like that? How do you I know you work a lot with kids. How do you tell them that you have other gifts, and to use those gifts? How do you help somebody through that bullying process where they feel good about themselves?
Well, first of all, if I had to say, find what you're strong at. It doesn't matter. It could be dancing, it could be cooking, it could be making clothes, it could be gardening, it could be anything that you think that you could be good at. Kids, you could design something. Hey, look at the internet nowadays. You just about design a shirt. Just about anything. So with that, find your strength within something positive. Something that is positive that will give you the strength from within. And conquer your goal and keep rising. You'll be proud of yourself in the end.
And when you talk about rising and I guess having that self-confidence start building up, do you find that you have less problems with spiking anxiety? Tell me about that.
You do. You find that when you start prioritizing your life and see, prioritizing and prepping for something, I sort of call them cousins. And if you prioritize your life from the biggest to the smallest to the smallest to the biggest and start knocking down chips, that means if something's wrong in your life, that's like spiking anxiety or being dyslexic, start prepping. Hey, I know for a fact that I'm slow in writing, so I'm gonna go ahead and get this writing done now so I can present it better. That helps decrease the spike in anxiety, because spike in anxiety strikes so fast and it goes away so fast. It's just like, Mr. B, if you had to come out on stage and make a speech, and all of a sudden you're spiking anxiety, wham, you're nervous, you're scared to death, your anxiety. Once you get out there and start making your speech, what happens? Your heart becomes everything just start calming down.
You got to get
You're
those
relaxing.
butterflies in formation.
Yeah, there you go. There
Get those
you go.
butterflies in.
Everything just go back into formation, and all of a sudden you're done with your speech, and you're like, wow. But it takes so much out of you in the beginning.
They say that public speaking is the number one fear sometimes in America. It's not even death.
I agree with you.
It's getting up in front of a group speaking.
I agree.
It really, what you're saying about anxiety and that type of thing, it's really bigger than this dyslexia. People could read this book and learn a lot about dealing with anxiety, right?
Exactly.
Situations that they may experience if they don't have dyslexia, but the way that you've handled your anxiety is just tremendous. And it's also going back to talents too, and making sure that you cultivate and nurture what your talents are. And I want to make sure people know about this book. Let's first of all talk about your website, because I think that's important. It's www.likewiseoriginal.com. What will people find on your website?
They will find videos of me dancing, of cooking, of bodybuilding shows I've done. And I just think it's well worth it to just browse it, you know, because it's very encouraging. It's encouraging to me. This book is even encouraging to me. I even have to refer back to this book at times. So I'm telling you, go to www.likewiseoriginal. Search through the website. Find something that piques your interest.
Well, you know, this is an autobiographical book. I mean, this is about your life.
Right,
And, you know, those
exactly.
are hard things to write. And, you know, I want to make sure people know how to find the book. You know, we've talked about it over and over again, but, you know, it's a great read, about 140 pages. You use great language. I use the phrase simile, but there's so many great similes that you have throughout the book. Your writing style is tremendous. How did that develop?
Well, it wasn't easy, and at times it frustrated me. At times, like I said, I shed a few tears, but my will to finish was stronger than not. And don't get me wrong now, there was times where I needed help.
Well, we're down to about our last minute here, and I do want to give you a chance to talk about this phrase you use all the time. It's never too late to be ambitious. What are you talking about?
It means to me it's never too late to be ambitious. You'll hit the ground running.
Hit the ground running. Well, thank you likewise for coming out and sharing you know, this information about the book and all that. You know, once again, we've told people where they can find it. They just need to go out and purchase the book and really follow your life and got, you know, look at how you got to be where you are today. And it's really a great story.
Well, thank you very much, and I am happy to be here once more, and it's just awesome. Well, thank you, and I just want to say thank you to Blab.
Well, thank you. And thanks so much for watching this program, and we'll see you next time.